Hey, gun people! Well, let's talk about a little government federal intrusion by the ATF. Probably one of the federal agencies. I mean, the FBI has kind of taken over the KGB, but the ATF has always been an enemy of the people for sure, and part of the KGB. So ATF seized guns from a township from an Amish farmer who admits sales. Key here is no charges were filed yet. They probably will file charges, but it's BS, and let's get in the article. Okay, so agents from the ATF seized firearms from a township property among Amish farmer's property, and an Amish farmer at the property alleged selling guns without a FFL, Federal Firearms License. No criminal charges have been filed so far. I'm not sure how they seize guns without charging somebody. I mean, unless there's a red flag law that says we can take guns because we're afraid you're going to use them, how are they seizing guns? Under what authority are they seizing guns when there's no criminal action? Is he an unlawful possessor because he's, had a domestic violence, because he's a convicted felon? They didn't say why they seized the guns, which tells me, of course, they're bending the rules, lying, and doing what they want. ATF agents, in part of an ongoing investigation, executed a warrant operation February 12th. Ongoing investigation. Anytime you say ongoing investigation, that means government wants to hide something and they don't want to be transparent. When the government wants to be transparent and wants to leak investigations, it's funny, the press has no problem saying, from an unnamed source in the FBI, from an unnamed source in the ATF. So when they want to leak things out, they can. So when they say they can't, they're lying and they're concealing. I'm not going to die. I was selling some. Okay, so that's an admission of guilt. Even though he's being honest, thinking he has nothing to hide, he just admitted to selling some guns. May or may not be a crime. Who knows in today's tyrannical government. Gun sales were not advertised, and he does not know how he may have come under the ATF's attention. So maybe his defense is going to be, since I didn't advertise, I'm not a dealer. I mean, that could be, I don't know. Let's see. This is my business. I am a dairyman, he said inside his farm filled with cows as he swept the floor and push broom. He has about 50 dairy cows. Reuben King was primarily sold long guns to the Amish for hunting, though he admitted he did sell to some non-Amish. Man, this guy's giving a lot of statements. Does he have a lawyer or somebody telling him to shut the hell up? I was not dealing in handguns. Positively not. Okay, so again, his defense sounds like he's setting up, and this is where a lot of people get in a mess when they start trying to talk to cops and give them information to use against them. I'm not dealing in handguns. Positively not. He didn't say I'm not dealing in long guns. Positively not. That will be used against him. Statements matter. That's why you don't say anything. Federal laws require identification when purchasing a firearm from a licensed dealer. The Amish contend their religious beliefs prevent them from being photographed so they cannot buy a firearm. Man, that's a great point. They're being persecuted for their religious belief, and they're being denied their ability to defend themselves and protect themselves. But I thought the Amish were like nonviolent and didn't believe in anything that was man-made or progression. So why are they buying firearms, which is, that's where the government's going to play. If it's really about religion, why this and why that? However, private sellers don't have to require a buyer to have a photo ID. So he's under the pretense, and I agree with him. I mean, I think he's fine. If you want to sell a gun to somebody, I don't have a problem with it. I don't like everybody having to get government permission. I don't like having to pay the government money in order to conduct business. I don't like pay the government money to give up your rights. When you get a license from the government, they put all these requirements on you, which costs you time, money, resources, hiring extra people, keeping records, etc. And therefore, you can't make a profit, which is exactly what the ATF want. I'm wondering what the ATF would do if all guns were just simply abolished and weren't there. The whole agency would go away. Who believes that? Of course not. They would find some other law and ways that they would have to go after the people. Reuben King declined to say how many guns he had sold. But more than 600. But there were more. But that more than, I don't know what he's saying. It sounds like he sold over 600 guns. Now, I got to admit, 600 guns is a lot of guns. And if he admitted selling 600 guns, I think he's going to have a hard time saying I'm not a dealer. But let's get into the rules here in a minute. Agents did not take all his firearms, he said, adding he's been collecting guns over the years and hunts. Okay, so this little piece of information makes me question, what guns did they seize? If they didn't seize them all, they weren't seizing them under public safety or he was a unlawful possessor. So why did they seize some and not others? Did they leave him the guns to hunt and protect his farm? Did they leave him the guns that he had bought and owned over 5 years? And every gun he's bought in the last year they took? This is information that would give me a more idea on what they're going for. Reuben King's brother said about 15 agents would have removed firearms from a room above the first floor and spent about 5 hours there. And that's pretty quick. If they remove several guns, man, I mean, being at a search warrant for 5 hours is pretty quick. They were, Rick, you're a big bootleg. I'm just telling you, people, quit freaking being crazy because I don't jump on. I hate everybody and everybody's wrong and I got to agree with everybody. They were jotting them down and loading them up. Okay. Reuben King said that he has been talking to lawyers but does not have one yet. Yeah, that's why you're making all these freaking statements like a dumbass. Rick, you can't call him a dumbass. He's Amish. All right, whatever. Doesn't know what will come of the investigation. I know what's going to come of it. Your ass is going to get charged. Reuben King pointed out that the government can't tell him how many guns a person may sell over what time frame before a license. He might be right here. There is not a specific number that you crack or cross a threshold of doing it. You could buy, you could sell as many as probably 3 or 4 guns and be charged because the government gets, the ATF, especially these federal agencies, they're making up rules on their beliefs and they're not getting laws passed through the legislature that are clear. This is what it takes to commit a criminal offense. Now, the ATF just said, well, we believe it's a machine gun. We believe that's a trigger, and we believe that's a trigger for an automatic gun, and we believe that that's a forward grip on a short barrel, and we believe, and they're charging and arresting and ruining lives, which is why everybody hates you fuckers. Rick, you can't call the... Whatever. All right, let's see. Cincinnati regulated on this guy, Katoda, suspect, reiterated on Tuesday that he could not comment on the case at hand. Really? He just made a whole bunch of freaking comments, but will refer anyone with questions about federal firearms to the Bureau's website. Oh, so this isn't the suspect. This is probably the ATF stooge flunky. A 15-page document was posted to the Bureau's site titled, "Do I Need a License to Buy and Sell Firearms?" And we're going to look at that document they posted. United States Federal Gun Control Act requires a person who engaged in business of dealing in firearms be licensed by the Bureau. Notice they stopped calling. If you notice, they've kind of gone away from calling the ATF. Now they want to call it the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. They're trying to get away from the ATF because they know it has such negative combination. Everybody connects it, has a bunch of jackboot freaking KGB freaking anti-American assholes. All right, determining whether you are engaging in business or dealing in firearms, looking at specific facts and circumstances of your activities. No federal law sets a bright line rule. That's the problem. That is the problem. When government gets to have these non-bright line rules, they get to cast a net whoever they want based on color, religion, who they like, who they think is a threat, who's his friends with a politician, who doesn't have any friends in politics. That is the problem with freaking non-bright line laws. ATF document says, we need a license if you repetitively buy or sell firearms with the principle motivated of making a profit. That's freaking just bullshit. That's a made-up term. That is not in any law. Licenses are not required for someone who engages in occasional firearm sales from your collection, he documented. Anyone who willfully engages in a business of dealing firearms without the required license is subject to criminal prosecution with a sentence of 5 years in prison and $250,000 or both. Wow. Let's take a look at that document. U.S. Department of Justice, Bureau of Alcohol, ATF. All right. Do I need a license? Right here, the first thing in this pamphlet, the first thing it says, this guidance set forth herein has no regulatory effect. Now, when you read this at first, and then you read this entire document of all these looking like facts and laws and legal shit, you forget this first sentence of this document. This guidance set forth herein has no regulatory effect. Why am I even reading it? Why do I even care what it says? Why is this being cited as if it's law? Because the ATF and the federal government is a bunch of freaking anti-freedom pieces of shit. Federal Gun Control Act requires that a person who are engaged in the business of dealing in firearms be licensed by the ATF. And the reason why it says business is that's where they're getting into profit. Business is for making a profit, and that's where they're getting that terminology. Critical patterns in promoting, public safety, there's that word, I highlighted that for you. Public safety, national security. When you see those words, you know the government is seizing freedoms, and you ought to be saying, whoa, stop, this isn't good. Patriot Act, public safety. Patriot Act. It's for national security. We got to keep you safe. All bad. Secret courts for national security. Secret courts to keep you safe. All bad. All right. Firearms providing child safety locks, running background. See, if you get an FFL, now you have to run background checks. You have to keep records, insure gun crimes, first retail purchase, keeping records, facilitate safe storage of firearms. Now you got to comply with the storage requirement where they can take more money, more bars, more reinforcement, child safety locks, more money, more money. Every transfer handgun have to be a secured gun lock available at place. All persons who willfully engage in the business of dealing with firearms without required license is subject to. What was that first sentence here? Hang on. This guidance has no regular. Wow, okay. Let's remember that, people. Determining whether your firearms-related activity requires a license is a fact-specific, meaning we get to make up what facts we want to think are true, and you have to convince us that we're wrong. This guidance is intended to help you determine whether or not you need a license. Note, some states have other more stringent laws. In addition, focuses on the question on whether your firearm-related activities require you to obtain a license. There are other laws and regulations that govern transfer of license. All persons who engage, blah, 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 business, dealings with firearms must ensure that any transfer is in compliance with federal, state, and local laws. More compliance, more time, more laws, more research, more justification, more record keeping. So here's some key points. Federal law requires, yeah, that's the third time we've heard that, but remember the first sentence. A person can be engaged in a business of dealing firearms regardless of the location in which firearm transaction conducted. For example, a person can be engaged in business of dealing a firearm even if the person only conducts firearm transactions at a gun show or through the internet. Determining whether you're engaged in a business or dealing a firearm requires looking at specific facts and circumstances of your activities. As a general rule, you will need a license if you are repetitively buying and selling firearms with the principal motive of making a profit. Who does something without making a profit? I bought a gun 50 years. I traded a gun for a freaking car 50 years ago or 40 years ago. And when I sell it, I want to make a profit. Therefore, the government says, oh no, I'm a bad guy. I need a license. They want some of that money. They want to be able to control who's getting what. They want to make sure I'm paying taxes. They want to make sure the other person's paying taxes. They want to make sure we're paying their fees, their regulations, their background checks. If you only make casual firearm sales for personal collection, you do not need a license. If you only make occasional sales, what is occasional? Now we get into what's occasional. Is 600 guns that this guy said he sold occasional? I don't know. I don't give a shit if it's occasional or not. Courts have identified several factors relevant to determining on which side of that line you may be activities fall under, whether you represent yourself as a dealer or not, whether you're repetitively buying, selling guns, and circumstances under which you're selling guns, which would rather looking at making a profit. Note that while quantity and frequency of sales are relevant indicators, courts have upheld convictions for dealing without a license with as few as 2 firearms were sold when only 1 or 2 transactions. Wow, you guys are good. Man, some guy sold 2 firearms and you took him to court for freaking needing a license. Are you freaking kidding me? Wow. License, it goes into all this other bullshit. What if I only sell at a flea market or gun shows? They already did that. There really seems like they're attacking gun shows and flea markets in this document. What is required? As a general rule, you need a license if you repeatedly, same thing. Relevant factors, whether you present yourself as a dealer of firearms, whether you're repeatedly selling, same thing. Let's see. Are you looking to make a profit? Yeah, no. Everybody wants to sell things. Yeah, everybody, like the government, wants to give shit away for free because they don't have to make a profit. Yeah. No one else has to make a living. And then down here, they have these little examples. We put this together to help you when we're going to come after you. Poor Bob inherits a collection of firearms from his grandfather. He would rather have the cash than the firearms, so he posts them online sale. He makes no purchases. So this is where they want to keep saying, if you buy a gun and then sell it, you're a dealer. He makes no purchases, but over the course of the next year, he sells all the firearms he inherited in a series of different transactions. Bob does not need a license. How do you know that? Because you're God's? Because the ATF decides? Because the law says he didn't need a license? Or because you're interpreting the law that he didn't? Joe? Joe? You mean like, let's go Brandon Joe? Recently lost his job. Man, wouldn't that be good? And to finance his living expenses, he has been buying firearms from friends and reselling them through an internet sale. He has successfully sold a few firearms this way and has several more listed for sale at any one time. Joe must be licensed because he is repetitively buying and selling with the primary objective of making a profit. Wow, Joe's getting screwed. Sharon travels to a flea market every Saturday. Bad Sharon. Buying undervalued goods. Bad Sharon. Trying to make a profit. Trying to be an entrepreneur. Trying to make a living and feed her kids. Sharon, you greedy, pesky citizen. How dare you? Including firearms. The last Sunday of every month, Sharon rents a booth at the flea market and sells her items that she bought undervalued for profit. Gee, Sharon is a mean American. She should be getting welfare. She should be waiting for the government to save her. She should be asking government to help her and keep her safe instead of being self-sufficient. Bad Sharon. She hopes to make some money in the series to finance a trip to Italy. Sharon must get a license because she is repetitive. So Sharon must get a license, set up phone lines, be able to call in background checks, be able to secure. She has to buy gun checks, and she has to spend 10 times more than she's making in order to comply with the ATF. Isn't Sharon lucky? Sharon must be an American. But if Sharon's illegal and doesn't have any ID, then we can overlook that, okay? Sharon's a legal, pesky taxpayer. That's the key here that we left out. Anyway, they go through all this. If you want to go to the freaking article, you can. I just go back to the very first sentence of all this crap telling us how bad everything is. This guidance set forth herein has no regulatory effect and is not intended to create or confer any rights, privilege, benefits on this matter. Case proceeding C, United States versus bullshit 44, blah, blah, blah. All right? So I'm thinking the feds are going to steal this guy's farm and his cows and his business and his livelihood because he dared get involved with the mean, dangerous firearm that only government should have control and be the only ones that are allowed to do anything unless you ask them for permission, pay them money, and follow their laws, or they'll put you in jail. Wow. All right. Another great little feel-good story about America, freedoms. Y'all have a good day.